Welcome back to the channel. Recently, I've had the pleasure of playing an indie game that just might be one of the best indie games of the year. It's that darn good. Yes, I'm talking about Chained Echoes, and of course I'll be talking about the Nintendo Switch version. Now this was a game for myself that seemed to come out of the blue. Prior to release, I didn't hear anything about this game. So when it dropped on the Switch and other platforms earlier this month, I wasn't really aware of it. But then I started to hear some talk about this game. Stuff like it was really good, and it seemed to be very inspired by those 16-bit JRPGs of the 90s. So when the publisher reached out to me with a review code, I figured it was a good chance to see what it was all about, and see if it was actually as good as what everyone is saying it might be. So what is Chained Echoes exactly? It is a turn-based RPG set in the style of JRPGs from the 16-bit era of the 90s. It was also developed by nearly one person. Yes, you heard me correctly. One person. That pretty much is an achievement by itself. I've heard of one-man projects before, but nothing to this scale. According to the developer, his biggest inspirations while making the game were Trials of Mana, Terranigma, and Chrono Trigger, as well as some Final Fantasy games, specifically the Ivalice ones. After playing, yeah, I can definitely see the influences for sure. The story of Chained Echoes takes place in the land of Elandris, which has 3 kingdoms. There's been a war going on for a long time, but a truce is finally called, and peace has finally happened. Near the beginning of the game, there's a celebration occurring in the southern kingdom of Fonset, and there we get introduced to different characters until they meet up together and their stories intersect as things start to go crazy. The characters then go on a quest to go after grimoire that seem to be so powerful that they can vaporize huge areas when shattered. Now there's more details to that obviously, but I don't want to spoil it for those who want to play, so I'll keep it brief there. The story as it plays out is not the most earth-shattering story. At times you can really predict what will happen a mile away, but it's competent enough, and I do generally like the characters, even if their development tends to be a bit thin. The gameplay, though, is where it's at. There's some neat mechanics to the gameplay that make it stand out compared to most JRPG-style games. One is it forgoes the normal level mechanics. There's no traditional leveling here. Instead, you gain stats and abilities through the use of level stars that you use to unlock skills. You get these by beating bosses, but also through certain points in the story. Now you might wonder, then what's the point of the other enemies? Well, beating them gets you skill points as well as items. Those skill points can be used to level up skills you have unlocked and set on your characters. Of course, you obtain points to level them up naturally through battle, but those additional skill points can help speed certain skills along in the leveling. It all ends up being a very neat way to allow you to customize a character to the style and needs, as opposed to other RPGs, and I really like it. The battles itself have some neat twists as well. It is turn-based, but what you really need to pay attention to is the overdrive bar. This has a huge impact on what damage you do, as well as what damage you receive. When you first start a battle, you'll be in the yellow, and your party is essentially warming up. At this point, you'll do decent damage, but also take decent damage in result. Once you use enough skills and attacks, it'll eventually go up into the green, which at that point, your party has warmed up, and you're in the sweet spot, and you do the most damage, and take the least amount of damage. Eventually though, the bar will reach the red zone, known as overheat. At this point, you'll receive the maximum damage from enemy attacks, so you'll want to avoid being in the red during your opponent's turn, or you'll pay dearly. Of course, there's ways to lower the bar, such as using skills that appear in yellow text, which can be random on your skill list, use of your ultra move, as well as switching out characters in mid-battle. Yes, another neat thing is switching characters. You can have up to 8 characters in an active party at once. 4 will appear on the field at any given time, but you can switch out to another character if you have them in the formation as a reserve. It adds another neat layer, and trust me, you'll be switching out often to stack attacks and skills, as well as keeping that bar in check. Eventually, outside of normal battling, you'll gain access to battle armor. These suits have increased power as well as mobility. You'll get tastes of them early on, but eventually through gameplay, you'll be able to use them at will. With all the layers and mechanics, it ends up being a rewarding combat system. One of the best I have seen in an RPG like this. It seems like there's a lot to it, and the game does a good job at teaching you as you go to show you the ropes. For further customization, beyond the skills you learn, you'll eventually be able to use class emblems that give you access to additional skills that can be equipped to a character, as well as use materials you gain from monsters to upgrade equipment. In addition, you'll be able to find crystals that you can combine and equip into armors and weapons for additional skills and abilities. So in short, the game has a really deep customization system that RPG fans will enjoy. The combat system is not the only major highlights of the game. The game itself is very gorgeous. The graphics really channel the era of 90s RPG gaming, though of course there's plenty of modern visual touches going on that would make it impossible to run on those old systems. The music itself is incredible. It would be what we would call back in the day as the CD audio route, and it has some beautiful tracks. While a lot of the game design itself has been done by nearly one person, the music was handled by another, and they did a fantastic job with the soundtracks. All in all, it's a really solid RPG. It's really good. Its gameplay with the battle system and customization skills is great. It's the highlights of the game. Its graphics are good and the soundtrack is amazing. The story might be one of the weaker points, but it's good enough to carry you through. The only issue I had, beyond the story elements, is one that wasn't really an issue, but something that some players might need to be aware of. Starting out with battles, it's not the easiest RPG. It does take some time getting used to the overdrive bar and managing that. Enemies will punish you if you make mistakes, and I did personally fail quite a bit before I finally got a grasp on things. That said, if you're casual or feel like you're continuously hitting a wall, there are some ways the game can help you. In the options menu, you can adjust the overdrive area size, enemy stats, and aggressiveness. It's a good way to adjust the game, to get used to the mechanics too, and then rev it back up to normal. You can also increase the difficulty for all these settings, and you can adjust them at any point in the gameplay. I do encourage you to start with these untouched, and only adjust if you feel you need to. That all said, wow, it is a really good RPG that I've had a blast playing. The game itself will take about 40 hours to complete, so it's got a good length, and for $25, I think it's a must pick up for RPG and JRPG fans. You know what? The hype is real. It's definitely one of the better indie games to come out this year gameplay wise. Don't miss out on this. It's been a pleasant surprise. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Apologies that it's taken quite a bit to get this video out. I had quite a bit going on behind the scenes. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so yet, make sure to click on that subscribe button. In addition to reviews, I do other videos covering games on the Switch, such as eShop highlights and deals videos. Yes, I can help you save some money on gaming. That's all I have for today, so thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you next time.